In this next section, we're going to look at a means by which we can move chord shapes around the neck of the guitar. Both minors, dominant, major chords. To do this, we need to learn just a little bit of basic music theory. In music, there are 12 notes, 12. And those 12 notes can be named by 7 alphabet letters that we've already discussed. A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So if we have 7 alphabet letters and we have 12 notes in music, there must be an odd 5 notes. 7 and 5, 12. So those odd 5 notes will be the notes sharps and flats. You'll hear these terms used. So you could possibly have an F sharp chord or a B flat chord, etc. So to enable us to use the bar system, which is its reference, where chords are barred, we need to know the notes on the 6th and the 5th strings. So there's one thing I should make you aware of in the musical alphabet. All the letters are a whole step or 2 frets apart, except between the letters or the notes E and F and B and C. Let's have a look at the guitar and see how the alphabet lines up on the 6th string. We've got this open E. Now remember, between E and F there's no gap. The note on the 1st fret would be F. Between F and G there is a gap, so it's 2 frets. This note would be G. Again, between G and A, 2 frets. Between A and B, 2 frets. Between B and C, no gap. So B, C, right next door to each other. And up to D, 2 frets. And finally, we're back to E on our 12th fret. Remember, 12 notes in music. So let me just play the musical alphabet without the odd notes. E, F, no gap. G, A, B, no gap to C, D, and on our 12th fret, E again. And that would just repeat again. F would be on and G, etc. So we'll look now at the odd notes. If we have an F note and G, there's this note in between. Now it can have 2 names. It could be called F sharp, if we went up in pitch. It could also be referred to as G flat. Got 2 names. Now don't spend too much time trying to memorize the odd notes. Learn the alphabet. Once learned, you can actually spot. If you want to play a B flat chord and you know exactly where B is, well, it's going to be right there. If you wanted to play F sharp and you know where F is, F sharp. So it is very, very important to plot out the alphabet: E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. And take your time with it. Maybe just learn 1 or 2 notes per night. On most guitars there will be reference dots on it, fret markers. And this will help you. For instance, on my guitar, the first dot would be on a G. So it's very, very easy to see. And if you think back, your G chord is built from the G note. Now, the first shape we're going to look at to enable us to really multiply our chord playing up very, very quickly. We're going to look at, in these 2 sections, we're going to look at the forms of E major. You'll hear me refer to them as the E form. It's just the E chord. Now, in order to move it through the musical alphabet and make use of it, I've got to do a certain thing. I've got to change the fingers to finger 3, 4, and 2. So there's our E major chord refingered with our first finger free. Very important. Now I'm going to move this chord now up a half step. And I'm going to bring over the first finger to the F note. Lay it flat and bar. Now there's a nice new F major chord. If I did the same thing and moved it further up, there's another way to play G major. If I moved it again, I could play A major, just using the one shape. B major, C major, no gap, D major, and if I could get my hands to fill in, E major. That's a bit of a squeeze. Don't worry about that one. Now, if I just recap, I can play all 12 major chords now. There's 12 notes in music, so therefore there can be 12 major chords. There can be an E chord, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, etc. And there can be possibly then 12 minor chords or 12 dominant, in fact 12 of anything. So by this means you can now, once mastered, you can play every single major chord. There are only 12, you can play them one way. Let's have a look. F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp or B flat, B, C, etc. So we've just learned 12 chords, every single major chord one way. Now the good thing about the bar system is this. I'm just going to play a G major chord for you. That's a good place to start with it. It's not as much tension as you would have here. If you simply take off your second finger, that's G minor. So you've just learned another 12 chords. You can now play every single minor chord. And if we take off another finger, we'll take off our fourth finger this time, we've now got every single minor seventh. Make sure you can hear each note. Okay, so far 36 chords. If we take off our fourth finger, we can now play every dominant seventh. It's G seventh, A seventh, B flat seventh, F sharp seventh, and as you see, the note with the first finger is the note that depicts the name of the chord. So let's recap. Up to now you've probably learned, let's say, 15 chords. In this one section, if you think of it logically, 12 notes in music, and there's four variations on a basic major shape, the E form. We've just learned 48 chords. Now, in order to use those, it is very, very important that you memorize over a period of time. Just take your time with it, but the notes on the 6th string. So, the thing you'll notice about the bar form, most people's first attempt would sound like this, because they're not using enough pressure with the first finger to play down. It acts as a bar across all the strings. A tip here would be to just angle your finger back slightly so it's more of the bone and the edge of the finger rather than the flat. Just angle it back. And don't hold on to the chord for long periods of time. When you're first trying this, just line your fingers up, no pressure on the guitar. When ready, apply the pressure and then release. That way you'll get results much, much quicker. You'll not hurt your hand as much. So, we can move on now and look at another form in which we can do exactly the same thing. But to do this, we need to memorize now the notes on the 5th string. That's our A string. Now remember the musical alphabet, nothing changes. There's no gap between B and C or E and F. All the other alphabet letter names will have a gap between them. In music they call that a tone or a whole step. So if we've got an A note here, up a whole step would be B. Remember, no gap between B and C. C. Up a whole step, D. Up a whole step, E. Half step to F. Whole step to G. And finally, 12th fret back to A. That's the same note as And exactly the same principle. The notes, let's say, between C and D, that note could be called C sharp, and it also could be called D flat. Okay. Now, the A chord that we've learned at the moment is this. I'm going to show you an easier one now. We're just going to lay our third finger on the second fret, covering strings 4, 3, and 2. Let it curl up slightly at the end here so that you're not hearing that note. We want to choke that note out. Okay? And just get used to that new A chord. The root note being the open A. And that term root note, that simply means the name of the chord. A lot of these terminologies you'll pick up. So if I move the A chord, let's move this finger up a whole step. And I have to bring the open A string up a whole step also. Put over your first finger. That's a perfect B major chord. And that's a new chord for you. So A major, B major, C major, D major, you get the idea now, E major, F major, G major, and finally we're back at A major. And all the ones in between, if this was D and E, this chord in between could be called two names, E flat or D sharp. That's just another 12 chords we've learned just by utilizing the A form, being able to name the notes on the 5th string. And if you take your time with it, you'll learn them within a few weeks. Just learn maybe a note or two per evening. Just A, B, C. Once they're learnt, they're a visual reference on the fretboard. And after a while, you'll be able to spot E or B flat, G, D, just like every other guitar player. It just takes a certain amount of time. Now we're going to multiply up again further. We're going to change our A chord, and we're going to go back to our A minor. We've learned it like this, A minor. Same principle, we'll change the fingering to leave the first finger free. So put your 3rd finger, 2nd fret, 4th string, 4th finger, 2nd fret, 3rd string, and your 2nd finger, 1st fret on the 2nd string. We play that, sorry, A minor. Now again, notice that the first finger's free. He's free to do the bar. So I'm going to bring this A chord up a whole step, place the bar across, just to the B note here on the 5th string. Line your fingers up. Try to make everything nice and parallel. Try not to let this happen. That's usually what a beginner student would be doing. Try to make it parallel. Relax your hand. Don't force underneath it. Line it up like that, no pressure. And when ready, just apply the pressure. There we can play all 5 strings now. That's a perfect B minor chord. If we were to move it a half step, yes, it would be C minor. If we moved it again, another whole step, D minor, E minor, and in between, E flat minor, or C sharp minor. So again, we've learned 12 more major chords, every major chord using the A form, and every minor chord. There's 24. You can see how it multiplies very, very quickly. You can build your chord knowledge up. Now we're going to do another one, minor 7th. Now this is actually easier. We simply take off, same fingering as before, take off your 4th finger. Now we've got A minor 7th. Oh. That's the perfect one now. Same principle, if we moved it a whole step, B minor 7th, C minor 7th, D minor 7th, you get the picture. That's another 12 chords learned. Right, let's have a look at the dominant chord, A7th. Now to do this one, use fingers 3, 2nd fret 4th string, and finger 4, 2nd fret on the 2nd string. That would be our A7 3-fingered. Same principle, we'll move it up to B. Up to C. Notice my 3rd finger, or my 2nd finger, sorry, would come down and act as a bit of support for the bar. That's okay. That gives it a bit of added strength. And again, all 12 notes in music. So what we have now is 12 major chords in the A form, 12 minor chords, 12 minor 7th, again that's still the family of the minor, and 12 dominant 7th, 48 chords. The same on the E form, that's 96 chords we've learned. You can see how quickly that your chord knowledge will mount up. So it's worth taking time with these until you get them perfect. Once learned, muscle memory, you'll play them perfectly every time. You can play, in fact, you could play a whole song now just with the chords you've learned. Just shapes. You see? There's a lot of nice sounds by just moving these chords around.